How good does it get, SK?
Why not us, Troy?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Smylie Show. We are back at home after a week in Philadelphia, the PGA Championship at Aronimink. One of the better Smylie Show retreats I can remember. And here's how good it was, how much fun we had, is that if you notice that there is a material quality downgrade to Smylie's video today, to Smylie's audio today, that is because after the recap we did on Sunday night, he left his laptop sitting right there on the chair, and we just, none of us really spotted it. And by the time we heard from him,
here we go. Here we go. Nobody spotted it.
Whoa! Wait a second. Can we unpack? Can we unpack what's behind this? Because Jax is not with us in the recording room, but he can back me up on this 1,000%. Buddy, how do you leave your laptop? This was a tough week for you. You lost
car
I tell you what happened? And you lost a laptop, and I'm not sure how. Those are like both in the top 5 of things I would not be leaving anywhere ever. And you you got 2 of them.
I'll tell you how it happened. It's because of AV. If AV doesn't sit down in my chair at the end of that episode, I never walk away from my laptop. But y'all were still finishing the record, and I walked away and then never came back into the room. And it just was one of, I mean, how many times have I not finished an episode of the Smylie Show and somebody stand in as Smylie? So this is like a one of
it's a one of one.
One of ever, you know?
Yeah. First time ever. I just thought, I mean, it was on like the footrest of the chair, which you sat to record.
I know,
right next to the front door. Right next to the front door. So I'm thinking he must have done this on purpose. That's how just out there it was.
So you did spot it.
I did. I certainly did.
You said nobody spotted it.
Well, okay, all right. It was sort of a semantics thing. If anything, I was trying to cover up for you, who left your laptop like within eye range, walking out the front door of this rental.
Did we ever walk out the front door?
Did you take? I went out the front door and went to the airport. That's how I saw your laptop. That's how I saw your laptop. So,
dang.
Yeah. I mean, look. Yeah. I mean, it would have been. Yeah, there you have it. That was a long-winded way of saying Smylie's joining us on his phone and AirPods tonight. And that's where and choking on water
and try not to choke. And man, we that PGA it was just like like a wild week, you know, from like very like cold temperatures to then like the very end like super hot, and I don't think my body like quite ever recovered from the week, and then coming back home to like a full parenting day. It was, you know, it just young kids they take it out of you, man. Shout out to my loving wife. I can tell you that much.
Shout out to our loving wives for holding it down while we were gone for a week in Philadelphia, playing some golf, watching some golf, definitely working hard. But I never had truly a good cheesesteak last week. Would you call the one on Friday night a good cheesesteak?
Not like it was a fine cheesesteak.
Fine cheesesteak. Yeah.
I would take Jersey Mike's over it any day of the week.
I agree. Hard agree. In fact, just had Jersey Mike's tonight. Mike's way.
And if we're just gonna rank like where a Philly cheesesteak from Jersey Mike's is in the scale of cheesesteaks, it would probably be right at a good hard 7.5. You would think.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing that it keeps getting higher with amazing Philly cheesesteaks in Philly. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. The Chipotle chicken cheesesteak, which I believe is order number 42.
That's great.
That's a good cheesesteak. That's a good cheesesteak. Like it's
but
not. It's not even like.
Do you count that as a cheesesteak though? Because it's chicken. I wouldn't. I think we're talking nuts and bolts of what a Philly cheesesteak is. It's steak, not chicken.
I just think, I guess in general, their method of preparation does it for me. You know, like just the cheese melt, the meat, like it's all. Despite being a national chain, it's a good cheesesteak. I'm with you. I'm right there in that 7.5 range for the cheesesteak, knowing that there are better ones out there, but there are definitely worse ones out there. And with all due respect to our hosts on Friday night, would have done a 42 from Jimmy from Jersey Mike's. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
right then and
no,
there
like
instead.
the cheese stick was fine. Trust me.
Yeah.
It was more
fine.
so. We didn't have Angelo's or anything like that, so we didn't have just their their best ones.
Yeah, we did not. I mean, we were to be fair, maybe I don't know how we went from you being the most free during PGA week because CBS broadcasts it to like the busiest person on earth because I was complaining about having 2 shows and you had 4. You had 4 things to do throughout the day. So it was a lot. We were doing a lot of work. So we're excused. We're pardoned for not having a cheesesteak.
I don't think we've ever really told our viewers kind of what an evening live from hit looks like. And so I kind of want to walk them through it because,
please,
everybody just kind of sees me pop up on TV and thinks it's just right then and there. I just got off the range, good workout right before, and it's quite the opposite.
Went to the player
live
performance
from
center,
hits,
got a stretch, all that good
let's
stuff.
say like a live from hit starts at 7:20. For the most part, I'll be there an hour or so before to make sure I get wired up so that we can check in with the studio and make sure audio and especially video is like matched up so there's no delay so that when we have communication, it's not all jacked up. And when I talk, it's not delayed. And so we do that. And then for the most part, we just kind of rehearse what we're going to do. And then after we rehearse, you just kind of, just wait around and sit. And I'm kind of making swings, not hitting any balls by any means. And so when I do pull off a shot, genuinely, it's not a fake reaction of okay, like he's really going overboard here. How hard could it possibly be hitting a 5-iron cut around a tree to 4 feet? I'm sure he hit a bunch before then. Guys, this is just think about like your first swing of the day, and you're just thinking about I'm just kind of hoping I make pretty good contact here, just a little wedge swing, and you start to kind of get a feel for it the more balls that you hit. And I could tell you, in all of the ones that I've hit, from hitting a driver on 18 at Sawgrass, cold turkey, from hitting that 5-iron at Philly, and then like the Sunday night one where I'm just sitting there feeling pretty good about the game, and then I get over the ball and thinking, my grip for whatever reason was like so slick. And I was just so concerned that I was going to lose the face on the downswing that I was just going to block it miles right. And so I'm set up for this big fade. And so I was so concerned about that 6-iron I hit at Trout on 10 when you and I played. I thought that shot was coming. And so I ended up just going for the full flip Bambino. And I don't know if you saw Joaquin Neiman's comment, but he said it wasn't a double cross, it was a triple cross. And I tend to agree that it was a triple cross, but then I would argue that it was a mud ball.
Triple cross mud ball entering the lexicon. I love it. I was looking while you were talking to find, because somebody sent in a fantastic viewer question for the show for you specifically. And
okay.
it was on this topic. It was, and it didn't come down to it. Aaron Rai, of course, wins by 3 shots, but the question that he posed, and please, if you sent this in, please reach out. I'll make sure to credit you next show. Was coming down the stretch, someone hits their drive over there on the right on 18 in a Ronamink. How much money would that player pay for your shot on live from that you cut around the tree? You know what I mean? Like, maybe you could take it back and apply. Like, what would Keegan Bradley or Justin Rose have paid coming down the stretch of the BMW in 2018 to avoid a playoff by hitting it to birdie kick-in range? I thought that was such a good question.
Well, I can think of many shots in my career that I would have paid a lot of money to had a live recreator hit and pull it off and pay them a good sum of money. So yeah, the limit does not exist, old Mean Girls quote.
Yeah, I like it. I think if the winner's share was like 3-7 and you needed a birdie, you had to have a birdie, I think you go up to, I think
Millie.
500. Yeah, I was gonna say 500,000 is absolutely, maybe $1 million.
now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over. But we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
My thought is in this whole recreation world is that first off, if you can't hit every shot good, and so you're going to look like an idiot at some point doing this, and I'm trying to avoid not doing that more often than not. And if I keep making myself look like an idiot, I need to keep loading up my pockets with golf balls. And I think that's important, you know, like it's Sawgrass at 17. I had 3 balls in my pocket knowing that I had to get one onto the green. And so knowing this, it's like, how can you be a Hall of Fame recreator? It's like, it's just like the MLB. Like you don't have to get on base every single time. Like you don't have to hit any home runs. Now it's helpful to have maybe 1 home run a year. And I've had maybe 1 or 2, which is great. I've gotten on base a couple times, struck out a ton. But the thing is, doesn't take much to be a Hall of Fame player in the MLB from a percentage standpoint. If we're looking at this, so really just 1 of 3 is all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
If we can just be successful 1 of 3, I think we're nailing it.
I think even, you know, if you really want to apply it to the modern game of the MLB or so, I'm told you can be a high strikeout, high power guy and hit about 250 and be an MVP.
I think we look
player.
at it. Let's call myself, you know, the Kyle Schwarber of live golf recreations. Is that a fair comparison?
I think Kyle Schwarber will be flattered by that. I think there's equal flattery.
I saw him in
Kyle,
Miami and he just kept striking out every time. And every time I see Kyle hit the ball, it seems to go out of the park. So if we're kind of comparing each other's games here, you know,
I like it.
It's a box of chocolates here. You can't get anything.
You're like a Moneyball asset, Smylie. You mix in a couple walks. You got a good eye, got a discerning eye. That's the type of guy that we need for a live firm recreation. Yeah,
you can't replace. Like you can't. You know, you can't replace me in the aggregate. That's just the bottom line. You're what a movie, Moneyball, man.
What a movie. You're Scott Hatterberg, essentially is what we're saying. Yeah.
Except I can't play first base.
Boy, by the way, I mean, we could really delve into at some point, like the second podcast of our post-major recap week needs to be what it has been for these first 10 plus minutes, which is just us telling you about all the things that happen behind the scenes. You and Jackson diving deep on that Game of Thrones spinoff.
Ooh,
there were a lot of threats.
It was the Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. And we kind of got you into it a little bit, but
I'm into it. This was. Let me tell you what this was. I wanted to watch the show with you, and I did watch large parts of the show with you. But Amanda and I, there are lots of things that brought us together in marriage. Lots of things we like about each other. We cannot see eye to eye on television shows. It is the smallest, tiniest bit of overlap. So then when you see one that comes along where you're like, that's
you are
something
not
I can
the
watch
only
my
one
wife.
That lives in this world.
Like when a show like that comes along and you say, ooh, that's something my wife would watch, you say, all right, let's save that. That's gonna be the next thing I suggest, so I don't have to like sit through The Summer I Turned Pretty or something like that. With no offense to the people out there watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, just not in my sort of wheelhouse, I'd say. So
it is nice to have a show that comes along that you both are excited for.
Yeah,
and it happens maybe once or twice a year. And those are that's when everybody's on point at bedtime. Like we're firing all cylinders to try to be sitting down before 8 p.m. If we're starting anything past 8:30, all of a sudden life gets pretty quick.
we're in the midst of Daisy Jones and the Six.
We're thinking about rewatching it, man.
So good. I love it. I'm also a huge Stevie Nicks guy. Just love Stevie Nicks. So that series is incredible. But that is definitely one where you're like, are we going to try to watch Daisy Jones and the Six tonight? Got it. All right, I'll have the kids in bed by 7:30. By the time you get home, the kitchen's cleaned up. We're going to go sit down and watch it. That's not when you're dragging your feet around. So I'm with you.
You're talking to an Ella fella over here. Somebody who I think's Ella Langley and Stevie Nicks kind of have a little bit of the same personality and the way they dress. Anna Carter's big Ella girl too. Yeah.
I need to look. I'm not familiar with Ella Langley's game enough. It sounds like.
You don't want to be an Ella fella? Come on.
I'd love to be an Ella fella. I feel like sign me up right now. I will say there were threats of watching 300 all week long. That never materialized.
Oh, I finished
sadly.
it. I finished it on the plane.
Hey, good for you, man. Great movie.
It's honestly not even that great. And I talked it up so much all week about us watching it in the theater room, watching 300. It's like, guys, can you imagine watching 300 in this theater room? And then we were going to watch Fury in the theater room. That had never come to fruition.
Yeah.
But Fury would have been better than 300. 300's good. It just keeps on giving me flashbacks, like watching Gladiator, and Gladiator's so much better than it. That it's just literally the same scene for an hour and a half of them just like fighting a new gang of the Persian army. It's like, all right, we got it.
Yeah, that was the era of before the era of like Chinese peptides and everything, where it was like, what is Gerard Butler's ab routine? Let's do 15,000 Men's Health articles on that. We can't believe that's a physically possible thing. What would have ripped on that theater? Blade would have crushed on that theater.
Yeah, see, I don't even. I've never seen Blade. Is it? Who's in it? Who stars in Blade?
Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is he is Blade. And
then
if you would have
told me it was Nicolas Cage, I was in.
The villain, I forget the actor's name, has I think the best villain name of all film, Deacon Frost. I want Deacon Frost to be my alias. That is such a good name. I might start going by Deacon Frost. Yeah, a little alter ego.
Dr. Deke.
I should have gone Deacon Frost and the guys that were heckling Rory at Ronamake. That was
the Frost Man.
I was feeling
the Frost Man.
The Frost Man. We all that we had a lot of good bits come out last. Let me tell you, Smylie, Summer of Cotton popping off. Never in my wildest dreams could I expected Summer of Cotton to take like it has taken. Lot of DMs, a lot of people trying to get in the mix. I love it. We are there are more people out there. We're hitting a tipping point. We're all rejecting big polyester, big microplastics all at the same time. I'm just glad to be a part of it.
What? How did we get here? By the way, it's like it's wild to me.
Yeah,
Aaron
it's
Rye,
almost June.
and just a reminder, Aaron Rye has won a major championship. It's like that was not on the big board. Like I'm telling you, there wasn't a world where I had Aaron Rye winning a major this year. And I think Aaron Rye is a fantastic player. Now I could have seen something at maybe the Open, just waves and just, having to hit the ball straight, not having to rely on your putter quite as much, windy conditions. Give me Aaron Rye there. PGA had a run to make. I had in a small bubble of players going into a round, never seeing it before, knowing nothing about it, not even knowing it was a Donald Ross golf course. My perception of this place was that this was never going to be an Aaron Rye week. Now, as the week went on, I started to kind of see the golf course. Those things kind of changed where, I asked you that question where it was like, what do you think about Russell Henley, Sepp Straka, JJ Spawn, and Tyrrell Hatton? And we kind of debated those four guys of like who could be one of the not so long accurate players contend and win here. Little did I know I should have threw an Aaron Rye in that whole question.
Well, here's the thing is, if you had told me if 2024 Aaron Rye was on the board this week, I would have loved that version of Aaron Rye.
He hadn't even played well this year.
So he had two injuries. I don't know if you saw the report. He had like a lower back injury and a neck injury. And so that's why he's been playing.
I saw him on the range in Houston, man. Like somebody got into the tournament while I was sitting on the range and I watched Aaron Rye withdraw. I was like, that's a bummer.
Well, and it's one of those things too, is like where a guy that gets hurt, you just never know the full extent of the impact on the swing or the ability to score. And it's one of those things where it's like, depending on the nature of your team, it's like it could be a long thing or it could be something you get right and you start playing well right away. So that's why I say is like at end of 25, there was some debate as to whether he deserved to be on the Ryder Cup team at Bethpage last year. But really the form he'd shown towards the end of the last year wasn't as good as end of 24. I mean, that whole summer, it was either Rocket or John Deere where he had like that driver off the deck into that narrow par 5 up the neck and
Rocket.
Was it contention there? It was Rocket. Okay. And then of course wins the Wyndham. I think we probably picked him. One of us suggested Aaron Ryan like over 75% of the tournaments that year for one and done. He was a machine and then has a little bit, worse year last year and then has the injuries. But this isn't like if you told me back then that Aaron Ryan was going to win a major the next 2 years, I would have said, oh yeah, like that doesn't he's a long shot, but that's not crazy. But for it to do it this week, it definitely was a shocker this week.
What he won in Wentworth, if I recall, correct?
Yep.
The DP event there, and honestly took down some big names. I think Fitzpatrick was a name that he took down. And his wins, like he's definitely not shied away from playing against some really top end talent. And we touched on this in the episode right when we finished the championship, but I was just amazed looking at his percentages of fairway accuracy. Man, he's a 70% accuracy dude off the tee. And his golf swing it's so interesting, man. Like because he takes it back fairly inside with his hands. Like he gets his hands back inside, but the face is shut. Like it is shut, and then he just gets vertical from there. And he's deadly accurate, and but he's so meticulous, man. Like, were you and I talking about that like drill that he was doing on the range where he just sat there for 10 minutes working on that drill, standing on the stick?
I just got to correct real quick here because I want you to get back to what he's working on there. But that was actually last fall's the T3 at the BMW PGA. He won the following week at the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. But he had 2 great weeks in a row. That was at the end of 2025. But yes, that was at Oakmont where he had the 2 alignment sticks and one he was standing on between his feet. And you talked about this on the recap show, just tirelessly working on the most minute position over and over and over again.
I know. Well, we talked a lot about Aaron Rye, so I actually want to kind of, we touched on a lot of the guys, but who do you feel most confident about that isn't Cam Young, Ludwig Oberg, or Matt Fitzpatrick, and take away Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy? Like, who do you feel, proved something to you this past week at the PGA Championship that you think is going to maybe have a second half of the season make a nice little run?
It's interesting. So I'm looking at the board here. I mean, the most surprising one in the top 10 by far was Cam Smith. We talked about all week long. A guy that, and that's why I'm intrigued for upcoming majors with Cam, because it's everything we said all week long. It's like this guy never lost the touch around the greens and putting. It was just that he, hit it off the planet, off the tee, and his iron game is so a lot of the time. And now he literally is. I think this is one of the first weeks he's working with Claude Harmon III, and he's ties for 7th in a major championship. That is a huge jump in my evaluation of a player prior to this week and my evaluation coming out of this week. On 15. Cam Young hit his drive like way left, and then from there I think played it into, I didn't see his second shot, but he played it into that, and this is on Sunday by the way, played it into that front right greenside bunker, hit a filthy shot out of there to about 3 feet and made a par. Whereas we saw other guys, you were talking about how hard it was to hit that fairway on Sunday because that ball would kick and roll down to the left. And so again, to your point, it's like you could have either yanked it over there and been in the same height rut as a guy that hit the fairway off the tee, but it bounded or the wind direction took it or whatever, and has the exact same lie as Cam Smith and doing the same calculus. And
that's why there should be a first cut, though. Like if there was a first cut to where you could control your golf ball, that's like the huge difference to me of the setup of this place and where I think it would have been at its best, is that there were too many balls that would have normally been in the first cut, giving guys that are hitting more like quality drives off the tee actually a chance to be able to get it closer to the hole versus being in the same type of predicament as the guy who's 30 yards offline.
Well, and then look at the guy who wins the tournament. He goes about it by having an insanely unique strategy. Like where on that hole, he's like, yeah, I'm at 3-wood. I'm going to give myself 230 into the hole, and I'm just going to bet on my long iron play to make a par and hit a great shot. So then it's like we're working from there. And we're trying to decide, how you're getting rewarded. And then the other element of variability is all these guys are smart enough and have played enough, tour events and majors to go out and look at a green and know where the potential hole locations can be, right? And they'll throw down those discs in practice round, and they'll hit chips to those areas, they'll putt to those areas. So, but you truly can never know exactly where that hole location is going to be and do enough practice at that spot to know for sure how you need to play to that hole location. And then also you enter the other piece of variability where there are elements. It was windy on Thursday and Friday, all these sorts of things. So I guess so what I'm saying there is effectively that there was a little bit of this crapshoot element where if I got gusted, if I didn't really know exactly where I need to be under this hole to get a straight putt, I could hose myself. And it's not necessarily that my approach shot was worse, it's that I just didn't have this extra element of knowledge to get the ball in a place where I had a chance to make a putt or make an easy 2-putt. And then that's where, to your point on the strokes gained putting, we were seeing that correlate so strongly with the leaderboard on the weekend. And so, I mean, look, I still think it was really entertaining. I still think it's an amazing course, but I'm not going to like shut myself down to entertaining lines of thought and explanations as to why it was a little bit different than like a straightforward challenging major test. And maybe there was a variability that, I understand why people disagreed with certain parts of the setup.
I also think that the wind direction was super challenging for the way the golf course lays out. And I'll give a couple of examples. So the eighth hole is an elevated tee box, par three, playing back in the breeze. So I should say most of the par threes had hurting wind. And when you think about that, it was, some of the more challenging holes on the golf course, like the eighth hole played at 3.5, I believe on Thursday, which was just silly. And these par threes that are playing back in the breeze, and then also I would say that some of the shorter par fours, those were holes that were playing more down breeze, which I think became more challenging, especially when you talk about a hole like number 11 with an elevated green, and that first bounce was just so difficult to control, not wanting to go long of the green. And then 17, I think, is another good example, which is another par three. When you have helping wind on that hole for such a long shot and knowing you can't miss left, that's another one too, where it's just, I think the wind direction played a huge part in this. Like, I think if you had maybe just some slightly different angles to this golf course and maybe the opposite direction, I think the golf course plays easier. So sometimes just a wind direction, the way the holes lay out, can really make the place play just a little trickier. And I think that's something that we really haven't talked a whole lot about.
I can't believe I buried the lead this long because I have something I got to share with you. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on your phone, but
I don't know, maybe not. We'll see.
As we're getting close to our Imperial hat launch, our guy Drew Westphal reached out, and look what he's got chefed up here. Can you see this? You see this on your phone? Right, guys. It is. I'm sure you can all see it on YouTube. If you're on the podcast, he's got like the prayer hands emoji, but it's two black rain gloves on the front in a circle, and he's got Rye Guys on the back of the hat. He's bringing him to the U.S. Open, and I cannot wait to walk around Shinnecock proudly displaying this hat. Rye Guys is 2 years in the making on this show. And we invested early. We bought stock early, and we made it.
Only design note, and I think this is great. Only design note here would be, instead of the circle, I think you got to go with the triangle to kind of show off the iron covers. I think that's the only recommendation.
Wait, should the circle be an iron cover?
I think it should be.
That's so good. This is creative mastermind here. And we're live producing it. So I think
you got to make the gloves a little smaller so that you give room for the iron cover.
I love that.
But you got to make sure that you can see the iron cover, and so people don't think it's just some weird looking triangle. Like, you just got to show that it's just show a little bit of the ferrule of the hosel, just so people realize
coming out of the. That's amazing. I'm gonna text Drew as soon as the show's over. And
I should have been in the design world, Charlie. I think
you should have. You should have.
Yeah.
That was off rip. This is the first time you've seen this design. So all right, let's hope we can. And now this is we're gonna have to offer this in the shop if we're even allowed to do that, because can we cut? I think we should cut some of the proceeds of this hat to how about this is yet another cool thing I saw on Aaron Rye. You know the Me and My Golf logo he wears on his shirt.
Mm-mm.
You know how much he charges for wearing that logo?
I guess $0.
$0, because he worked with them his entire like childhood, growing up. They kind of instructed him, and he gets to the the tour, and he's just wears it because he appreciates what they did for him. This guy's just the best. So it's good to be a Rye guy,
and that's why you should be a Rye guy. Yeah.
That's why you should be a Rye guy. So we should like cut some of this to Me and My Golf or something. Anyway, I love it. Do you have more PGA Championship recap? Because I feel like there is.
I was going to answer my own question. I was going to answer my own. I was going to answer my own question that I asked you. I saw a lot of grit in JT on Sunday.
Yeah,
a lot of grit and a lot of moments that reminded me of just the dog that this guy has locked in the chamber. And we've seen enough of like really top end stuff from JT this year. It's been really weird for being a guy that's been so consistent his whole career to have just the variability of playing really well, but also finishing last in some events. It's like just unheard of stuff from JT, but there was some really great things that he showed, especially making big putts. And you have to love for him if the putter is back, that just opens up his game, man. Because if he's healthy and swinging it well, which he seems to be driving the golf ball better, that's the one guy I look for to have a really nice second half of the season. And the other guy was, I think Jon Rahm's gonna win a major this year, and I think he may win every LIV event they have the rest of the year, right? Like and dude, the LIV guys played great. This is probably their best major that they've had in quite some time. Like guys were up there really having a chance. Everybody had a chance, to be fair, but it felt like there was some really solid play.
That's a good tee up here for where we're going to go next, Smylie, because there is a ton of news on multiple tour fronts. I think we're going to save the most recent reporting from Josh Carpenter of Sports Business Journal. By the way, like Josh Carpenter should just get a producing credit for the next 15 to 20 minutes of the show, because all these reports seem to be coming from him. He does such a great job covering the business side of both these tours. But the PGA Tour, of course, announced, or not announced, but there are reports, solid concrete reports about the formation of their 2028 schedule, what that's going to look like. It is a further solidification of what Brian Rolapp outlined at the Players.
And so that's the best way I can kind of describe all this. Other than Hopkins Stewart didn't pay me. So if that leads to
Yes.
what may happen with Liv, I don't. There's probably other people in business here that can kind of relate to this and have their own experiences that can say, yeah, they're not getting investment, or there may be people that say, you know what, the teams might be attractive enough, and guess what? There's a lot of people that are investing in sports right now, and so that's also something that could be attractive to somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I think that one of the points being made on behalf of optimism that there will be investment is that there's a sense that some of the hesitance to invest in live prior to this was because the Saudis were involved, and that maybe that there's more of a willingness to get involved because that regime and just the way that they've done things in the past, and just how there's this trepidation there around who's controlling the business, and what's the human rights track record, all those sorts of things come into play for a potential investor. I think I also think that, to your point on both the bankruptcy deal and the fact that there are reports around the force majeure trying to invoke that to get out of these deals, like they're looking for outs, and just they're trying to get off the hook for all these big financial commitments they've made. I think if you're looking at this, I think you got to put yourself in three different places. Like you have to put yourself in the live players position. You have to put yourself in the live, administrator, CEO type of position. You have to put yourself in a potential investors position. And so starting with the player, if you're talking about a potential bankruptcy case, and especially if you're a John Rahm, you have a longer term deal, and you are wondering like how much of that money am I going to get? Am I going to get any of that money, depending on what it looks like in court? Again, not saying we're bankruptcy experts, but just knowing that that's the general way these things work. How much longer do I want to keep playing this and delaying a return to a tour where I actually will get paid long term? If the whole idea was to come here for guaranteed money, I'm not going to get the bulk sum of that. Like if I came for 400 million, I'm only getting 200 of it, and I've got 150 million of that already in the bank. Like at what point do I cut bait right now and get out of here? And by the way, like if they are actively trying to shed money, I know it hurts their ability to go out and fundraise against the league, but like they're playing this game of chicken where it's like you need the John Rahms and the Bryson DeChambos to go attract potential investors, but at a certain point, if you're not going to get the investment, you got to shed those contracts if guys want to get out, so you're not on the hook for those things. So I feel like if I'm one of those guys and I want to be playing competitive golf, I'm trying to see if there is a Brooks Koepka-esque out to just say, hey, let's just both cut our losses here, because then you don't have to worry about this financial.
That it's two sides of the coin
because the bankruptcy. What if they don't get the money? Why are we even here? Now I can't play tour events.
It's so hard because like from an investment standpoint and portfolio of players, you need it to be attractive. Like you need John Rahm in there. So they're thinking like, how can we still pay him?
Leverage those guys. I get that.
Because if it wasn't up front and if it was installments of every year we're paying you X, it's now you're in a position of where are you going to come up with that extra $50 million?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the question, but that was that was a whole calculated risk.
Well, and I think that's from a player's perspective. From the administrator's perspective, it's a little bit of what we just touched on there, where it's like, what's the balancing act here? Like, I need to go out and try to get this money and sell this, but at a certain point, I got to figure out how to get out of this as fast as I can without us, being on the hook to make all these investors and people good that we currently had. And then I think from the investor side, I just don't get. I think it would take a lot of vanity to invest in this, and a lot of like, because the things that they're banking on, like you can't tell me that if the league's been spending $1 billion all these past few years to get where they are now, and you're asking for $250 million,
it's going to make you probable.
There's just no way. Like the quality of the event has to suffer. Something has to suffer there. There have to be cuts, right? And I'm sure there are some easy cuts, but I'm sure it's not like all those are going to be easy cuts to get down to that number.
So much, if Live, like from a TV side too, Charlie, like we don't talk about that enough.
That's the thing.
We've talked about purses. We've talked about we talked about the players, but like they're not making a ton on these TV deals because it has not worked in
Hardly
the
anything.
States. So that's like one of their big problems. But also how much money Piff was spending on TV because Liv was producing all of this.
That's
Has
right.
not produced it. So the in-house production and how much they invested into that was a reason why a lot of people enjoyed the product because there was a ton of shots, ton of cameras, and a lot of people working on the show. Now, if you get a ripped version of that show that is now a ton of advertisements, well, a lot of people that enjoyed the show because of the less commercials and seeing all the shots and all the different streams, like then you're losing the people that really enjoyed the product. Now, if the product was never quite for me, I never really have enjoyed it. Too much going on, and that's okay. Like I'm fine for people that do like the product. It's just not what I enjoy
Yeah.
watching. I'm a traditionalist, and so so like when you start looking at all these boxes that we're creating, Charlie, it's like where in the pie chart are you divvying up all this money? Are you making sure that John Rahm is made full in all this, and the
Mm-hmm.
guys who have these guaranteed contracts first? Like, is that the most important thing? Is the TV product investing in that the most important thing? Is it going to be the on-site experience and getting Kygo to come on Saturday? Like where at some point in all of this, if the teams aren't bringing back a monetary value of a great sum that the league, of course, has a vested monetary ownership of, they are not in a good spot because I just don't see how the purses aren't vastly affected in all this to make it just a glorified, you know, whatever you want to call it,
It,
B to C
buddy,
tour purse, right? Like especially when the
it's
tour
gonna
announces a
be
$30 million purses potentially.
it's gonna be Hopkins Tour Plus. I mean, I really do think. I mean, because I just don't. I think if you are, the TV thing is the biggest and most important.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
more leverage you lose. Like, think about the structure of the deals that Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed got
Yeah.
back in February when we didn't have all this reporting about PIF pulling funding and the future of the league. They were still viewed as potentially a viable competitor. I mean, and John Rahm, he worked out that deal kind of in lockstep timing with the whole LIV reports, where he's playing these events on DP World Tour, retaining his membership there and being able to play on the Ryder Cup. But every moment that passes where LIV looks more and more like they're on shaky ground and might dissolve, it is another. It's like, okay, if Brooks had to pay $5 million to charity come back, now you got to pay 10. Okay, like, all right, Bryson, you just said some stuff about how the PGA Tour needs you. All right, guess what? Now it's 20. Oh, you don't like it? Oh, where else are you gonna play? I mean, I just think that I'm not trying to be harsh on the LIV guys, but it's like it's really a part of this. A big part of this is a negotiation. It's a leverage game, and you're losing it by the moment with every one of these reports comes out about LIV.
So here's the thing about that is that the only thing that John Rahm or Bryson DeChambeau will lose is just a year of their time. They they don't have to.
Correct.
They do not have to pay the fines. What happened with, like, for instance, with Patrick Reed, right? Like, he wins on the DP World Tour, and all of a sudden, like, he had not re-signed with LIV Golf, and so at that time you realize, well, shoot, I'm just going to go get one of these DP World Tour cards and get back onto the PGA Tour. And so there was a loophole here of, like, okay, here's where I know my suspension will be. And the same would be for Bryson and John Rahm. And in that case, if they didn't want to jump straight back to the PGA Tour, now the PGA Tour will, come with an offer. This is what it is. And there's no negotiation in it. It's like, this is what it is. And if we know anything about Rahm in this, is that he's been pretty hard-headed on it, because we both believe that he should have accepted the DP World Tour deal, which was just a 4-tournament offer that he's like, no, I would never play for. It's like, dude, like, this isn't that
I think
complicated
it was 6.
and crazy.
I think it was 6 and he wanted to play 4.
Was it 6?
It was 6 he wanted to play 4 because the 5th is, as we discussed,
6 is a lot.
5th
I can understand that.
But the 5th, the one he added on was Scottish Open. Co-syncs with the PGA Tour. It's interesting how this stuff's turning. I think you're right. I think you're right there. I think that if they are willing to say, okay, like, I'll just go play a year on the DP World Tour, I'll bank on the fact that playing against some of those fields, I will finish top 10. I'll earn that category
in the
next
majors.
year.
Like, he gets in. It would be the easiest way for him to get back to PGA Tour if he wants to save money, and especially if he's not going to get paid out his full sum. And dude, he's made, I think he's made $87 million just on the golf course over there. If he ends up not getting his full payout, the only thing that he really loses is that whatever he had for the PGA Tour retirement, or whatever the future profit earning entity is of the
Equity
PGA Tour
thing,
like, which from what I understand is very lucrative. And John Rahm was going to be $100 millionaire regardless if he was playing the PGA Tour or LIV. Now, you could probably double exit a little bit of how much he's made over at LIV, but you take away some of this, guaranteed money that he might not receive. Well, if he played really well on the PGA Tour, these guys are making a lot of dang money too. How close would it have actually been in a nutshell? Because both tours are both players, if you're playing good on each tour, you're making a lot of money. Now, it's pretty wild, the medium to low end player on LIV, how much they can make for playing average to poor compared to the PGA Tour, where you're missing cuts. That's a bit drastic, the guaranteedness of it. Not to say that we don't have a guaranteed model of the PGA Tour, which I completely disagree with, but that's a conversation for next week.
It is indeed. We're looking forward to unpacking the PGA Tour side of this equation. 2 tracks looking good, because it looks like track 1, 120 player fields, track 2, 140 player fields. I mean, this is what we asked for. So we are unpacking that, and then we're hoping having my fellow Durhamite Shane Ryan on the show to talk about that. Maybe talk a little bit about the identity of the PGA Championship, coming off a week where he was one of the 3 stars of the press corps with his line of questioning to Garrett Kigo. I'll award another star to Doug Ferguson for the trees exchange with Xander Schauffele. But I can't wait to talk to Shane about all those things. So that's what we got for you today. And yeah, look forward to that in addition to a recap of Smylie Kaufman's favorite golf course on the planet, TPC Craig Ranch. That's coming next week.
See you.
We'll see you next week on the Golf Channel. This has been The Smylie Show.
You know, I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our local fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the